Aloha friends, Jason Prophet Moffatt here, aka J Promo, and in this video I'm going to show you how to take that stack of 1980s or 1990s baseball cards and actually make them worth a lot of money. So if you're anything like me, you came across a bunch of baseball cards or sports cards and you're wondering how much money they are worth. Now, if you came across a big bulk of cards from the 1980s or the 1990s, chances are most of them aren't worth nearly what you'd hope for. And in that time, they had mass-produced so many cards from Topps, Fleer, Upper Deck, all the different companies. There was just a mass abundance of them. So they're really not worth what the cards in the 70s and the 60s are worth, where there's a limited supply. But I want to share how you can actually take those near worthless cards and actually make a bunch of money from them. I did this myself. It was probably 20 years ago. I was living in San Diego. I was finishing my last day of community service at a thrift store. I was a punk kid, and so this was me making amends, doing my community service for stupid stuff I had done as a kid. It was the last day. It was a Sunday. It happened to be Super Bowl Sunday, and I was missing out on the Super Bowl, and I was really upset about it. Anyhow, I'm at the thrift store and this guy comes with a truck full of sports cards, and we're talking, you know, a stack, like maybe 100 boxes or so. And the old lady at the thrift store was really upset that he was donating these cards because she didn't want to have to deal with the inventory. She didn't want to have to carry them back and forth. And I sensed this and I asked her, what would it take for me to just take all of these off your hand right now? I'll take every one of them. She's like, I don't know, 20 bucks. I was like, 20 bucks and you let me go with all my time served today, stamp me, and I'll take everything. She's like, deal. So I get out of my last day of community service. I get all the cards for 20 bucks. I go across the street to the bar. I watch the Super Bowl. And then I go home and I take all these cards home and I'm just digging through them, super excited to see if I can find a Honus Wagner or some Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards or whatever. I found none. It was majority like 90s baseball cards that really weren't worth a whole lot of money. As I went through, I don't remember the Beckett guide, I believe is what it's called. It gives you the prices. And I just had a bunch of worthless cards. So I was like, no wonder the guy gave these away. But then I had a thought. You know, back then I was super broke. I was looking for any way to hustle up some money without having to get a real job. And in San Diego, particularly at the beach, a lot of people move every other month. And so in the back alleyway, sometimes you could find a little coffee table or a little end table over here. You could go to the thrift store and pick up an end table for $5. And what I would do is I sorted out all the cards, and maybe I'd have like an 89 Yankees team. I'd have all the people from 89 Yankees on their own, really not worth all that much, right? But what I did is I would grab a table, and let's just say this is an end table, right? I would then take the cards and I would put them on and I glue them down on top of the end table. So, you know, maybe this one would only have like a starting 9 or whatnot, or I could put the whole team if I had enough space. But I would lay out the cards onto the coffee table, and then I would put a clear epoxy coat right over the top, and it would create this shiny, glossy finish. Now, it took me a few practice runs to get the epoxy level and looking good, and the consistency, you don't want it too sticky or tacky. And I made like a 1989 Padres memorabilia table. Now think of how many dudes have man caves and they're hanging out and they're Padres fans, or Yankees I use for this example, doesn't matter what team. There are thousands, if not millions of dudes out there that love the team. And many of them have a significant little lair that they're sitting in, their man cave, where they watch their games Of course they're going to want a Yankees table or a Padres table or an Indians table or a Trailblazers table. It's freaking rad, right? So I started making all these random tables, and then I lived on the ocean front in San Diego, and so I would just sit on the ocean front and make like a little shop, and people would walk by, and I would put a price tag on the low end from $100 maybe to a $300 if it was a really good one. I was literally taking trash, the guy's stuff that he'd given away to the thrift store, and I was then taking trash from in the alley, combining the two, spending a few bucks at Home Depot to get the epoxy. If I can find the kind that I use, I'll put it down in the description. I don't know if it's actually the best version to use, but it was an incredible hustle. I made NASCAR tables and NBA tables as well. And one day I was actually sitting in another sports bar, and I kind of looked at the tabletop on the bar, and I looked at some of the pillars that existed in the restaurant, and my mind started spinning. I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could just sit here drinking my beer, watching the game up on the TV, and look down, instead of just looking at like this oak tabletop, what if I could see like a Ken Griffey Jr. card or a Tony Gwynn card, and maybe even the front and the back, and I can see all his stats from 1986 and whatnot. Like, as a sports fan, I think it would be super cool to sit at the bar and look at a bunch of sports cards lacquered underneath the bar top. And so I started talking to the owner of the sports bar, and I told him that I could do that. I could make his whole bar top look amazing. He could pick the team or whatever, and it would really accent, you know, the sports bar feel. It's very appropriate. Well, he said yes. And then I was like, oh crap, you know, I wasn't proficient enough to make these things, at least on a commercial level. I didn't feel confident like wrecking this guy's whole bar top in case the consistency of the epoxy wasn't right. So I actually declined the gig, but had I been a little bit better at it and could have mitigated the risks, I could have made a few $1,000s from that kind of job. But if you are sitting on a bunch of sports cards right now, go practice it. Go find some crappy table, throw some cards you don't care about on it, throw a clear epoxy coat over the top, excuse me, and see what it looks like. It's super freaking cool. And then think about, where else could you post these sports cards, put an epoxy coat over the top of it, and then be able to sell it on eBay, sell it on Craigslist, sell it, especially in the Facebook marketplace nowadays. Facebook marketplace is kind of what Craigslist was 10 years ago. Stuff sells so fast there, and considering that you're selling in a particular city, there's likely a ton of fans for the teams that reside in that city. So if you're in Detroit, make a Red Wings table, make a Pistons table, make a Tigers table. People in that area will be stoked to have it. So that's my tip on how to turn 1990s, 1980s cards that seemed worthless or not worth a value and turn them into value. I'm Jason Profit Moffatt, also known as J Promo. Go to profitmoffatt.com if you want more money making strategies, and hit the like button here. Leave me a comment down below. What's your favorite baseball card that you had as a kid? Are you subscribed to the channel? I've been off YouTube for years, and I decided to ramp back up the channel. I'm going to be back here bringing all kinds of money-making strategies, from baseball cards to cryptocurrency to internet marketing to SEO to copywriting. We got all kinds of craziness bouncing around in my brain, and I'm stoked to have an outlet to share it with you. See you later.